Yesterday, Major League Baseball released some new hats, and for the Texas Rangers, it was a full-blown disaster. You might even say a hatastrophe.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers, the first and best daily Rangers podcast. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, on today's show, we're talking about the hat disaster. I'm also looking into the top 5 and bottom 5 hats the Rangers are selling on their own website, and yeah, maybe later we'll even talk about some baseball. But yesterday, Major League Baseball released some new hats from, I believe it was New Era, and they got quite a strong reaction from the public. These were some ridiculous hats, and if you're not watching on YouTube, go ahead and watch this one on YouTube, because this is a visual presentation kind of a podcast. And if you're looking here on YouTube, these are the hats in question. Not only did they have they looked initially pretty harmless. Okay, you got the logos of the teams just like normal hats, and then you have the words that are on the chest of those uniforms behind the hats. And at first, like, okay, this seems a little busy, this seems a little clunky, and then you look more into it. And the Rangers, well, there were quite a few faux pas with these hats, but the main of which had to do with the Texas Rangers. They have the Texas T in the middle, overlaid over just the word Texas. Tetas. And if you speak Spanish, you can already tell what's wrong with this picture. If you're not a Spanish speaker, if you're thinking, okay, tetas, what does that mean? Forgive, I don't know if I'm even allowed to say this on the air, so forgive me. I think I'm not allowed to say obscenities or slang words like that in English, but I don't know if the language is fine. Apologies to David Locke if that's not. But it means boobs in Spanish. I made double sure. Right? I asked some of my Spanish-speaking friends. I also looked it up in my own time, and yes, the Rangers were about to sell a boob hat. The Rangers have pulled this hat. Major League Baseball has pulled this hat. The Rangers had nothing to do with this hat. They did not know that this hat was going to be released, according to intrepid reporting from Evan Grant of the Dallas Morning News. But it was, there were no comments left by Major League Baseball. This was certainly a choice on these hats, but honestly, just looking at these hats, there's just a lot of fun to look at the silliness of these hats. You start pronouncing some of these out loud, and there are some more obscene ones. Honestly, the entire AL West is just very, very questionable. You have the Astros, but instead of TR in the middle, it's an H. So Astros, except with an H. I know I'm not allowed to say that one out loud, but if you're a Texas Rangers fan, you might get a little bit of a chuckle out of that. Heck, if you're anybody, you might get a little bit of a chuckle out of that. The Angels, it's AN with no G. So there's a big old A where that G was. You don't have to be a wordsmith to figure out what that says. I definitely can't say that on this podcast. With the A's, I think it's the most appropriate of these atastics. That's just funny and weird. With the Mariners, there's no Rin, there's Masters. If you want to pronounce it with a soft S, I would not, if you were a white person such as myself. Mazers, if you want to go lasers, like the hard Z kind of pronunciation there, the soft S, that's definitely questionable. The entire AOS, just an absolute mess. Some of these other ones are a little more fun. The Arizona Diamondbacks, it looks like Ariana. And that TikTok sound, Ariana, what are you doing here? That's kind of what I'm thinking with these hats. There's Boston with no ST, just Boban. So I'm sure Boban Marjanovic would love that. Former Dallas Mavericks great. There's the Detroit Lions, the Detroit Lions. Interpretation of the Royals hat could be seen as the Urkels, the Fighting Urkels. That would be a whole lot of fun. I mean, just all of these are ridiculous. I don't know why they thought this was a good idea. And it kind of reminded me of this old hat that the Rangers used to have. Hold on, where we go. I had this just a second ago. There's a lot of pictures on this episode, so you're going to want to watch on YouTube, and half of my face is going to be blurred out. So if you don't like looking at my face, you'll probably miss a decent chunk of it. So don't worry too much about that. But this is the hat in question. It's a logo on a logo. It's kind of like, forgive my millennialness, but it's like that old meme of, yo dog, I heard you like logos on your hat. So we put a logo on a hat on a hat, if you will. And I'm not one to judge a hat on a hat. I mean, look at the hat that I'm wearing, the hat that I always wear. It's literally a hat with the best Texas Rangers logo. I think empirically, a baseball wearing a cowboy hat, so literally a hat on a hat. A hat on a ball on a hat, if you are following that insane logic here. But it got me thinking, there's a lot of hats here. I mean, some of these, I think that I appreciate the artistic vision, or just having some kind of artistic vision of trying something, just doing something, taking risk. Art is subjective, and there's going to be criticism, there's going to be backlash, and some of these are silly, some of these are more vulgar than the other ones, some of these are just straight up silly and goofy and fun. The Miami hat just has 3 M's and an I, just me. That's fun. You can't help but have fun saying some of these out loud. The Washington Nationals, there's the Tion. It's just the narwhals. That's fun. The Phillies are the Fippies. Philadelphia Fippies. That's fun. Brewers, if you take all the vowels out of it, it's just the Burrs. Just the Burrs. Or if you want to do the interpretation of the Milwaukee Brewers logo, that honestly took me, I was a big old age when I realized that the Milwaukee Brewers glove has an M for the webbing and a B for the thumb and the palm. So MB, Milwaukee Brewers. It took me a long time there. If you want to read it as that, they're not just the Brewers, it's the Bourboners, which also just straight up ridiculous. The Pastes, the Pittsburgh Pirates, just absolute ridiculousness. Colorado Rockies, having the full Colorado Rockies just all the way spelled out on their jerseys, I think is just silly. So the Kokado Raries, it's just so stupid. So many of these are just so silly and so stupid. You can't help but laugh. That this probably went through I don't know, at least 15 people, you would think, before this reached the public. Then they have the Dodgers, the Deliers, if you want to read my interpretation of it. That's I feel like the most generous, most accurate pronunciation of it. I mean, this is hardcore journalism doing, people here. This is why I got my journalism degree, for exactly things like this. This level of seriousness is what I was born to do journalism for. And then the Guardians, the Guacans, I think that's just, honestly, I'm going to start calling these teams by some of these names during the season. Just in the deadest part of the season, come the doldrums of, August, of, early, just right before the All-Star break in July, we're going to talk about the series against the Miami Marlins. Or nope, I still can't say it as much as I want to say what's on the Astros hat. You know what it says. You know what it says. You can read between the lines. I won't get in trouble by saying read between the lines. Use your imagination there for what it says. Or some series against the Fighting Urkels of Kansas City. I mean, I just love stupid, silly things like this. But, I went to go look up the old Yo Dog logo, the hat with a logo on the hat. And I thought, okay, oh, this is still there. This is still on the Rangers website. So what hats are they actually selling? What hats are they promoting on this Rangers website? And I found some deep, dark, scary things. I'm going to hold your hand and show you what they have on this Rangers website. Because trust me, dear listener or viewer, watcher, whatever you are not prepared for the level of hats they have on the Rangers website. We're talking about all that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site that's made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're ordering plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for the trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. So thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Shout out to the everydayers making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, I'll be back and I'll probably not talk about hats. I think I might just talk about baseball, specifically the baseball game that's going to be happening today. What else happening in it? I don't know. I have been too obsessed with hats all morning, and specifically these hats. And I'm going to show it on the screen here. One more pun before we get off the Tatas hat. You know, if the Rangers are wearing these hats, they should probably be playing in the Grapefruit League as opposed to the Cactus League. All right, that's enough puns about that hat specifically. Let's look at the rest of these hats. I have spent a lot of time crapping on bad hats. This is my area of expertise. I'm literally in a group chat where we talk about the quality of hats. More specifically, mainly bad hats. We bond over bad hats, but I want to give the Rangers some credit because honestly, the Rangers do have a lot of good hats. They really do. So without further ado, let's get to the top 5 hats the Rangers are selling. These are just ones on their website. Number 1, these are even going on sale. I don't know why they don't just keep these forever. They're trying to get rid of these. I hope they never ever do. These are those gold hats from last year when the Rangers won the World Series. Hopefully we get to see these kinds of hats or maybe a new kind of gold hat. Honestly, the gold uniforms. The most disappointing thing for me about this season, besides a lot of it, honestly, there's a lot of points of frustration from the season. But the main point is that they wore these hats, these great uniforms, and they just weren't good while wearing these incredibly good-looking uniforms. I mean, these are exceptional hats. The gold hat, just the gold standard. I wish the Rangers got to wear them more often. I wish they did more than 6 games or so of these all gold unis, saying, hey, we're the champs, we're the best. It's one of the best traditions in sports that I honestly didn't really know about. It's only been going on for the past 5-6 years. I believe 2018 with Boston. In 2019, they started wearing a gold uniform after winning the World Series for 6-7 games, and then the reigning champs repeated that for years and years to come, and it's just become a tradition. Honestly, I love it. It looked so good. It looked almost like the Rangers' normal uniforms, but just that little bit of spot of gold of, hey, we're the freaking champs. Respect it. And I wish the play this year, in 2024, was a little bit more respectable by wearing those gold uniforms, because I'm pretty sure they lost, if not all of those games, at least the vast majority. I remember one where Jack Leiter was starting, and it did not go well for Mr. Jack. The number 2 hat, it's on this store. Just this hat that I'm always wearing. My hair actually looked good. My hair and makeup team was very frustrated with me of throwing away all of their hard work by wearing a hat. But I'm talking about hats all episode. I gotta wear my good hat. The best, by far, best logo for the Texas Rangers in their history. It's gotta be this. It's gotta be the baseball wearing a cowboy hat behind the Texas Rangers. It's so silly. It's so whimsical. I mean, no other team has another logo like it. That's why I love it. I love unique hats. I love ones that aren't just boring or aren't just trying. There's so many camo hats. I'm so sick of camo. I'm so sick of it. It doesn't look good on almost anybody. We have seen every single variety of it. Enough with the camo. Please stop with the camo. Also, the all black hats, it only works in a certain context. I feel like we're really, really overdoing it a bit. But number 3 hat the Rangers are selling right now on their site, it's the 95 All-Star logo hat. I mean, look at this logo. Look at the kind of logos we used to have for All-Star games and the hats we used to have for All-Star games. Look what they took from us. Look what they took from us. I mean, this year's All-Star game in Texas, the first one, I believe, since 1995. It's been a long time. It's been a long, long time since we've had an All-Star game here, and I'm not even going to show the logos from the hats from this year. They just were not good. The uniforms were, I didn't think as bad as we've seen previous uniforms, but after this year, it seems like they're going back to everyone wearing their own team's uniforms in the All-Star game, which is honestly what should have been happening this entire time. But instead, we get to get some crappy hats. But you used to have some really good hats. This one, great logo, love it. Honestly, fantastic. Next hat in this list, number 3 on this list. Actually, I guess we're at number 4 on this list. Cactus hat. Love me a cactus. Love me a reference to spring training. Honestly, it can get overdone. I think I might have actually picked the second best version of this cactus hat, but just I appreciate the effort here. I appreciate doing something. I appreciate referencing it. And I think it blends in well with the bill, blending into that, dark blue that's on the little bottom of whatever not the brim, whatever's above the forehead of the cap for lack of a better word. Honestly, just the Rangers logo in general is fantastic. So it's hard to ruin a Rangers hat. There's so many options, and sometimes they take it a little bit too far. But honestly, I respect this, and I haven't seen this cap before, and I like it. This is the last one on the good hats list before we get into the meat of it, before we get into the ugliness that exists in this world in the form of bad hats. This one, they're taking a swing here. It looks kind of like a neon bar sign, but I kind of like that. It's a little different than what I've seen in the past, and they took a swing, and I respect them for it. I like this hat. I don't know if I'd wear it myself, but I appreciate that it exists. I cannot say the same for these next 5 hats. I urge you to brace yourself, because truly, this is some terrifying stuff we're about to get into. All right, we're going to go with these bad hats in reverse order, so you can build up, so you can brace yourself for the worst ones, because truly, I have never seen so many bad hats. But at number 5 on the worst hats the Rangers are selling list, we have this checkered trucker hat. What is it doing here? What is going on here? I'm not a huge fan of trucker hats in general. I think they have their place. I think, on certain people, they can work, but just that not just regular checkered. It's just off black. There is a Rangers logo in here somewhere. You can't really see it on here very well, but just it's so busy. It's so unnecessary. You have no idea that it's even a Rangers hat. That's half the point of wearing a Rangers hat is you can see somebody out in public and be like, hey, remember that one time when Corey Seager hit the crap out of that baseball and tied it with one swing? That was so sick. Hey, remember when Adolis Garcia hit like 15 home runs in a row and just stomped on the Astros' face in Game 7? That was sick. I remember the Rangers didn't lose a single road game in that 2023 World Series run. Just bonding over your hat. That is part of the reason of this. And with a hat like this, just why? Why are you doing this? Speaking of why are you doing this, number 4 bad hat on this list, flower hat. We don't need flowers on hats, even in baseball uniforms in general, for the most part. The one exception that I grant, that I think most people will grant, the only, I think, universally liked, not just liked, but loved uniform is the Washington Nationals cherry blossom uniforms. But the Aloha hats, why are we still doing this? They've never been good. They've been coming out for years. I'd say even a decade. Actually, I remember the first hat that bonded my group chat that talks about bad hats was a flowery hat. Not this one specifically. It was a little bit different, but also an equally bad hat. Stop putting the flowers on the hats unless they're the Nationals cherry blossom hats. That's it. That's the only exception. Actually, maybe keep trying. Maybe next time you'll get it. This one. Next one on this list, the number 3 bad hat on the Rangers list. This is the NFL hat, Rob Lowe meme hat of Texas Rangers hats. Because what is this? Who is a fan of the Cactus League? What's going on here? It's just spring training. Cactus League. Look at this. Here's the logo of every team that plays their spring training games in Arizona. What? Why? Why does this exist? Who's buying this? Who is possibly buying this hat and saying, you know what, yes, I am not a fan of the Texas Rangers or the Chicago White Sox or the Arizona Diamondbacks or the Kansas City Royals or the Cleveland Guardians or the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, of wherever the heck they play their spring training games. Or I'm just a fan of the state of Arizona, specifically the baseball being played in Arizona. I can't imagine more than like 5 of these have ever sold. And I think the only people who bought them were like, huh, that's stupid. I need to have it. Which I respect the need to have a stupid hat. I feel like I am desperately short on enough stupid, silly, ridiculous hats. Heck, I have a hat of the Frisco Rough Riders logo that was a cheese once. And this hat right here, much, much dumber than a cheese hat. But coming up, we've got 2 truly atrocious hats, the 2 worst of the worst. And I think you might need a break just to prepare yourself for the badness of these hats. Talk about that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by FanDuel. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks you can use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories, and even who's cutting down the nets. Every year, I try not to pick my personal favorites. I always ended up going with my alma maters, both Texas Tech and Alabama, and it's even harder when both of them are top 10 teams. But if you want to go with your favorite alma mater, you want to go with its Cinderella story, there's all kinds of different ways to get in on the action. So just visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Now here we are at the top 2 worst hats on the Texas Rangers website. These are some bad hats, so just promise me you're sitting down. Promise me you're bracing yourself. If you're watching this, if you're watching this while driving, don't do that. But if you're watching this while driving, maybe pull over to the side of the road, because these are certified jump scares. The number 2 worst hat. I don't know what is going on here. This is just truly an abomination in the worst way. It's like if your grandma's Argyle sweater was just way worse. I don't even mean to demean the city of Argyle by associating it with this hat, with this pattern. I don't mean to demean sweaters or your grandma. Honestly, apologies to grandmas everywhere for comparing their sweaters to this abomination. Who thought this was a good idea? Not only is it this, but it's also on a trucker hat. Who bought this? Please, if you bought this hat, earnestly, I'm worried about you. I have concerns. This is bigger than whatever differences our opinions are in a hat. Do you need help? Do you need a friend? Do you need someone to talk you out of bad hat purchases? If you are buying hats like this, please, I don't know if there's a hotline for you to call. Just tweet at me, email me, something. Comment nearly any single thing below. If you're buying hats like this, I just want to be there for you, because I'm concerned about you as a person and the choices you're making, because they're not great. And others are probably concerned about you too. I hope that you have others concerned about you enough in your life that you're not buying hats like this. Or if you are, you're buying hats like this for your most hated enemies, because that's the only person who needs to be wearing a hat like this is people. Maybe this is a hat you buy. No, this is too mean. But maybe it's just the right amount of fun mean. If somebody this year loses a fantasy football league, maybe they have to wear this hat for a week or 2 weeks. God, any more than that would just be, I don't know, cruel and unusual punishment. I feel like that's either the Constitution or the Geneva Conventions. It's against something. But this hat is against all kinds of... This next hat, this last hat, the worst hat. Take a breath. Take a pause. I'm here with you. I had to see this hat on my own, but you have me here with you. This ransom note of a hat. What is going on here? I have so many questions that I don't want the answers to. This is literally like someone is holding a family member of yours hostage, trying to find out, okay, they're like, if you don't meet our demands, we're not going to do anything to your family. We're going to make them wear this hat. And that's honestly like way worse. That's just so much worse. I mean, taking all these different letters from different, I don't even know what these letters are for. It's like you're trying not to be found by the police, Because if you're wearing this hat, the actual Texas Rangers, the men in uniform, the ones that just arrested someone who did, there was some headline, I can't remember exactly what it was. Go look at Nick Angsted's Twitter to go find what it was. But if you're wearing a hat like this, the actual Texas Rangers should come find you and arrest you. And the fact that new era, 5950, everyone associated with this hat, what are you doing? Evaluate yourself, your life choices. What led you to make this on purpose? People can see this. We can all see this. You know, they tried to hide it on the final page. There's only 3 pages worth of hats in the Rangers shop. This is on there. And charging $47.99 for this, ships free, ready to ship. You could not pay me. If I was a trucker, you could not pay me. I'm not shipping this for free. I'm not shipping this at all. I don't want this abomination on my truck. What kind of, sorcery is going to befall me by taking this hat? I mean, I feel like I'd be involved with a crime. Just being associated, just even subjecting you, the listener / viewer, to this hat. It makes me cringe at myself, but it's also good podcast fodder. These are the hats. There are some honorable mentions here that I feel like I needed to get in there. There's a butterfly hat. If you are a big Lepidopterist, then this is, and you also love the Texas Rangers, this is the hat for you. Why there are butterflies on just a regular old Texas Rangers hat, I don't know, but you know what? I kind of like that it's there. Same with this next hat. The Flavortown hat. Yes, if you are a Guy Fieri, if you are a fan of diners, drive-ins, and dives, maybe I got that in the right order, maybe not. But if you are a resident of Flavortown and you appreciate Texas Rangers baseball, then this is a hat for you. This one I feel like is more appropriately priced. But man, there are certainly some choices of hats. I just wish there were a few more companies involved. I don't know. I respect that there were some choices made. I respect that they gave me some podcast content coming after the day the Rangers did not have a game. And I ran through a whole lot of what I was going to talk through about today's show on yesterday's show. But if you enjoyed this show, then you're one of the real ones. You're a real everydayer. And I feel like I should probably talk about a little bit of baseball on this episode. Maybe not. But these hats... Oh my goodness! If you have some opinions on hats, I'm sure you do. If maybe I'll talk more about hats in some point in the off season. I can't imagine there's going to be much more hat talk, hat chat, if you will, on another existing episode of the show until at least, I don't know, maybe November. It gets pretty dark in those content months. Honestly, the fact that I didn't do this in January, the fact that these hats didn't come out in January when I had nothing to talk about, that a little rude on Major League Baseball side. But hey, honestly, appreciate the chance to talk about stupid hat. This is very much my wheelhouse, but also something that, speaking of wheelhouses, is something that Adolis Garcia has lost a little bit of this spring. I said I was going to talk about Adolis on today's show, so we get to sneak a little bit of baseball talk here in the Hat Show. But Adolis Garcia has been on the shelf with an oblique injury. Hopefully sometime next week, it seems like, maybe later on in the week is when we're going to finally see Adolis Garcia in a game again. He suffered an oblique injury, and some of the numbers he was putting up before he got hurt were just a little concerning. A whole lot of soft contact, which very much is not Adolis Garcia's game. Now, he lost quite a bit of bat speed this past year. He was suffering from dual knee injuries, which is why he was, I think, a little bit, explains a little bit of why his speed was down so much from years past, why his defense was way down, also why some of his offensive numbers were way down. I think part of that was also him putting a lot of pressure on himself, but he's also changed up his swing quite a bit, trying to develop a little bit more bat speed, trying to make a little bit better swing decisions. But it seems like Bruce Bochy described it as he's almost got a two-strike approach from the get-go. He's sacrificing a lot of that power, which is what makes him a good baseball player. Adolis Garcia hits the crap out of the baseball. That's what he does. He makes hard contact. He does have some swing and miss. He will probably always have some swing and miss in his game. And what made him much better in 2023, when he was actually having the season of his life, was that he's just making better swing decisions. The swing it's always been a little bit long. I mean, overall last year was just a dreadful year for Adolis, and coming off of a year where he was fantastic. I mean, a career-high 39 home runs, that postseason run where he was just lighting the entire world on fire. But, the average exit velocity in 2023 was in the top 10% of baseball. I mean, he hits the baseball hard. Even in 2024, that average exit velocity was still, in the top quarter of baseball. Even when he wasn't, putting up great numbers, he was still swinging and missing a whole lot. He was walking not quite league average, but better than he had been in years prior. Just slightly better swing decisions, I think, is what made Adolis Garcia that much better. And I think he's overhauled it just a bit too much in terms of his approach, in terms of the pitches that he's swinging at, and in terms of the type of swings that he's taking. I mean, he had lost a little bit of bat speed, and also the swing path is very, very long. And so those two things, they do not go together very well. If you got a long swing, you got to swing the ball, you got to swing the bat pretty fast. You got to, in order to make good swing decisions, in order to be able to make swing decisions, later, to be able to have more data on when the ball is coming at you. But if your swing's really long and your bat's really slow, you got to make the decisions of, am I going to swing, am I not going to swing, and what type of swing am I going to have earlier. So you're making worse decisions. You have less time to kind of make those calculations. One of the things that makes Wyatt Langford so good is his swing length is very short and his bat speed is very high. So he can let the ball travel a little bit more. He can let the ball see where the ball is going to be a little bit more accurately before he makes that decision of, am I going to swing or not swing? With Adolis, if you have the bat speed, then you've got a little bit more leeway if your swing is a little bit longer. But Adolis, I think he's trying to do maybe a little bit too much. I mean, we'll see a little bit more. He's got some time to tinker with his swing just a bit more, but the average exit velocity is what he's putting up this spring. Again, it's spring training. Again, it's a tiny sample size, but the numbers just don't look very Adolisian. Garcian? There's an adjective description form of his name that I will find at some point, but today is not that day. But I think that this time on the IL, well, not the IL because the season hasn't actually started, but just this time on the bench, whatever in the recovery unit, whatever's going on with Adolis Garcia, I think it'll allow him a little bit more time to actually get with the Rangers hitting coaches, work a little bit more on tinkering less with that swing, getting a little bit out of his own head. I think just being healthy, honestly, having two healthy knees, maybe that will help the bat speed, ramp back up. I think whatever he's doing to improve that bat speed, that's definitely there, because you looked at the bat speed difference between, we got some StatCast data on what it looked like in the back half of 2023 versus what it looked like in 2024, and the bat speed was down, and that's concerning. That's where you start to see players like Adolis that are a lot reliant on some of those harder skills, some of those skills that age out faster. Why the people are saying, oh, Adolis might just be cooked. I don't think he's cooked by any means. This is just too talented a player, too hardworking a player, too good of a baseball player over the last, well, not quite half decade, but almost half decade at this point. I mean, he was a regular in 2021. Then in 2022, he was also very good. In 2023, he was an absolute star. Took one step back last year, but I still think there's still a very good baseball player in there. I still think he is going to get the most out of that swing. I think he will find the perfect balance of what he needs to do, of just making better swing decisions and also fixing that swing up to the point where he can hopefully have maybe not quite the 50 homer season that he's expecting for himself, but something closer to that 30, 35, maybe even a little bit higher than that 39 career plateau that he had in 2023. I think that's definitely on the table for Adolis Garcia, but definitely something to keep an eye on as he is coming back into these spring games, hopefully sometime next week. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank you all so much for listening and subscribing, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball hats.